Dr. Matt Loxham is a postdoctoral researcher at the Faculty of Medicine at the University of Southampton and has conducted some interesting research underground. So what was the objective of your research?
Well, because underground systems are widely used public transport systems and they're quite enclosed, we were interested in looking at what air pollution is present in these underground systems, and particularly the dust in the air, what it contains, and whether that may have knock-on implications for the health of people who use and who work on these underground systems.
So how did you go about doing this research?
So we collaborated with a group in the Netherlands who have great expertise in collecting these particles from the air. And once we collected particles from an underground station, I worked at the National Oceanography Centre in Southampton, analysed the chemistry of the particles and also had a look at what they look like, and you can relate that to how they're generated. And then working in the Brook Lab in the Faculty of Medicine, I exposed cells from people's airways to these particles and measured a whole host of responses, so whether the cells died, whether they produced antioxidants, and so on.
And what sort of indications are you getting of impacts on people?
So I think the good news is that, at least in the short term, the impact isn't great. Our cells have defence mechanisms which they can activate to defend against the effects of these particles. I think what we don't know yet is what the consequences of long-term exposure to these particles are, and how well adapted our lungs and our cells in our lungs are to dealing with constant assault from these particles. And I think that's what needs a lot more research.
So how do you think we should be responding, thinking about things for regulation, etc.?
I think in terms of regulation, what's important to consider is that there are guidelines that may be well enforced, but we need to consider people who may be more susceptible to these particles in different environments. So whether people have airway disease, whether people are more active, so they're breathing more, whether they work on these systems or use them regularly, and the duration of their exposure. I think the guidelines are more often based on evidence which doesn't necessarily take into account people who may be deviating from the average in terms of their health or their activity, and I think that's what's important.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.